When you drive past a harbor, what do you actually see?
Boats.
Right, boats. For most people, honestly, it's just a parking lot for boats. You see some masts, maybe a place to grab fish and chips, you smell a little diesel and salt, and then you just move on.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually stop and peel back the layers, look at the permits, the water quality, the local chatter harbor is this incredibly complex living thing.
It's a collision, a high-stakes collision of heavy industry, fragile ecology, and a really deep-seated local community. It's a literal edge case. It's the edge of the land and the edge of the ocean.
And usually the edge of the city's budget, too.
Exactly. It's where everything gets messy. You have commercial interests right up against environmental preservation, tourists walking past fishermen who've worked those waters for 40 years.
And that messiness is exactly what we are wading into today. We are doing a deep dive into Channel Islands Harbor in Oxnard, California.
And the timing is key here.
Super key. We're working off a transcript from The Harbor Pod, episode 28, dated January 26, 2026. So we're looking at a very specific snapshot in time.
Right, early 2026. And this is important because, based on the source, the harbor is in the middle of a massive identity crisis. Or maybe metamorphosis is a kinder word.
Metamorphosis is definitely the word I'd use, because reading this, you get the sense of two powerful forces pulling at the place. On one side, you have what I'm calling the hardware upgrade.
The big stuff.
The big stuff. Massive concrete pouring, demolition, new hotels, rebranding. This huge push to become a modern, sleek destination by 2028.
And on the other side, you've got the software, the soul of the place,
Yeah.
the grassroots conservationists, the fish taco stands with no sign, the neighborhood councils. And our mission today is to figure out if that hardware is going to crush the software or if they can actually survive together.
I want to start with that hardware, because the source material makes it really clear. If you visit Channel Islands Harbor in early 2026, you probably need to bring earplugs.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like a construction zone. It is the definition of the messy middle.
Right.
The sources highlight Harbor Director Michael Tripp, who's entering his 5th year. Now, just to give you some context, in municipal time, year 5 is when the rubber really hits the road.
Okay.
You've done the planning, the endless permitting meetings, and now you're actually breaking ground. His vision is described as creating a modern, welcoming destination.
Which is often just corporate speak for, we need to fix this stuff before it falls into the ocean, right?
It is, but it's also an admission that the facilities were, nearing their end of life. Salt water is undefeated. It destroys infrastructure. The transcript details some major projects just crossing the finish line at 2 key marinas. Suntex's Bahia Marina, and the locals say Bahia.
Yeah. Okay.
And Safe Harbor Anacapa Isle.
That's Anacapa. I saw that pronunciation note. I would have definitely botched that one.
Right, Anacapa. And look, these aren't just cosmetic fixes. We're not talking about a fresh coat of paint. They are replacing old systems with brand new cement walkways and modern maritime infrastructure.
Why does that matter so much? The cement versus wood, is that just an aesthetic thing to
Yeah.
make it look cleaner?
No, it's a longevity and economic choice. Cement floating docks are more stable, they last way longer. We're talking 40 to 50 years versus maybe 20 for wood in rough conditions.
Wow.
And they can handle the larger, heavier modern boats that, generate more revenue. When you see a harbor pouring cement, they are signaling they're locking in their infrastructure for the next half century. It's a long-term bet.
So it's a massive commitment.
Huge. And the source notes that this is a rolling thunder operation. As soon as those marinas are done, the crews are shifting right over to the end of Peninsula Boulevard to replace those docks. It's just constant activity.
The host of the Harbor Pod made this reference I thought was interesting. They said this level of investment would have the spirit of Bud Smith smiling.
Bud Smith was one of the founding fathers of the harbor. So invoking his name is a way of legitimizing the change. It's telling the locals, look, I know the construction is annoying, but this is what the founders would have wanted. A thriving harbor, not a decaying relic.
But the docks are just the start. The really heavy lifting, the stuff that changes the skyline, that's all aimed at 2028. That seems to be the magic year.
2028 is the finish line. And the biggest piece of that is the demolition of the old Harbor Administration building, which happened late last year in 2025. But that's just clearing the board. The piece that really caught my eye is the transformation of Fisherman's Wharf.
The Carl's Village project.
Correct. And I want you to really think about the names here. Words matter.
Okay.
Fisherman's Wharf implies industry. It implies nets, ice, early mornings, work. Carl's Village implies leisure, strolling, retail, dining, family time.
It's a total rebrand. It changes the whole psychology of the place.
It's a shift in the economic engine. They're demolishing the old buildings to build this mixed-use destination. And right alongside that, you have the Hyatt House Hotel project on the peninsula.
A Hyatt House. That's specific. It's not a Motel 6, but it's not the Ritz-Carlton either.
Exactly. A Hyatt House is typically an extended stay product, kitchenettes, suites. This tells us who they want to visit, not the person who drives in for a few hours to fish and then leaves.
Right.
They want the family from Arizona or LA who comes for a week, stays in the hotel, walks to Carl's Village for dinner, and rents a boat. They're building a sticky tourism economy.
So, okay.
Yeah.
You've got hotels, villages, cement docks. It sounds like a lot of concrete, a lot of noise.
Yeah.
If I were a local, I might be worried the place is turning into just another generic waterfront.
Yeah.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting, the source material spends just as much time talking about birds and fish as it does bulldozers.
This is that balance we talked about, the ecological renaissance, if you will.
I like that.
While the jackhammers are going, nature is having a massive moment in the harbor.
It's late January, early February in the timeline of the source. And apparently, this is peak wildlife season. We're talking over a dozen species of marine birds, California sea lions everywhere.
And it's not just wild by accident, it's wild by design. The most compelling evidence of this is the white sea bass program.
I love this story. The Ventura County White Sea Bass Enhancement Facility. It sounds so official and science-y,
Right.
but when you dig in, it's really just neighbors helping out, right?
It's community science in action. The facility is returning in 2026, and the source mentions that volunteers just answered a call to action to repair the pens. Just visualize that.
Yeah.
These aren't paid contractors. These are locals on their weekend fixing nets because they care about the fish population.
Explain the pen concept for me. What are they actually doing?
So the program relies on grow-out pens. They get juvenile fish from a hatchery, but you can't just dump baby fish into the ocean. They'd get eaten instantly.
Right.
So they put them in these protected pens right in the harbor, feed them, and let them grow until they're big enough to survive in the wild.
A fish nursery.
Exactly. But maintaining those pens is hard work, and the payoff is huge. They're talking about a stocking event in March with 5,000 to 10,000 fish.
That's a staggering number. 5,000 to 10,000 fish just released into the ecosystem.
It's a massive injection of life. And for you, the listener, this is that aha moment on the hardware-software balance. The hardware is the pen itself. The software is the volunteer labor and the fish. You can build the fanciest marina, but if the water's dead, it's just a parking lot. This program ensures the water is alive.
Speaking of alive water, there's another event mentioned that, it just blew my mind. It's at the Channel Islands Maritime Museum, a talk by Ryan Davis called America's Green Core. The concept is green lighthouses.
This is a fascinating idea.
Tell me about it.
The idea is converting retired offshore oil platforms into hubs for marine research and climate monitoring.
That is such a cool sci-fi image. You take these rusted symbols of the fossil fuel era and turn them into guardians of the ocean. Green lighthouses.
It repurposes the industrial past for a green future. And it fits perfectly with the theme of the harbor itself. It shows this community isn't just thinking about where to park yachts. They're engaging with these really high-level conversations about our planet.
It really elevates the whole thing. So we've got the construction, we've got the conservation. Now I want to talk about the culture. Because you can't do a deep dive without knowing where the locals actually go.
And in Oxnard, that flavor seems to be very specific.
It's the Sunday routine.
Yeah.
The year-round farmers market at Marine Emporium Landing. Now, I've been to a lot of farmers markets. You get your honey, your kale. But the source makes a very specific recommendation. The Williams family booth.
For fish tacos and homemade ceviche?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the key detail, the thing that tells you this is real, inside info, is that they tell you to look for the big blue tarp.
That blue tarp is the most important symbol in the entire transcript.
Why do you say that?
Because we just spent 10 minutes talking about millions of dollars in renovations, architectural plans, and Hyatt hotels. And yet the single most recommended food experience is a family selling ceviche under a blue tarp. It signifies informality. It signifies we don't need a fancy sign because the food speaks for itself. The fact that the most recommended spot is identified by a blue tarp suggests the soul of the place is still very grassroots.
And if you want to get even more raw than the blue tarp, you can go right next door. They have dock sales, buying seafood straight from the fishermen, lobsters, California king crab, sea urchins, and something called box crabs.
Box crabs.
What is a box crab? I feel like I've missed out.
They're these bulky, angular crabs that look almost prehistoric, like little tanks. They're incredibly delicious, but harder to process, so you rarely see them in supermarkets. Getting one off a boat is a quintessential local experience.
Seafood without the supply chain.
Just a boat, a cooler, and a transaction.
I love that.
Yeah.
But if you're not wrestling a box crab, the dining scene they mention is pretty diverse. Harbor Mart, Waterside, Yolanda's, Fisherman's Catch, and a place called Moqueca.
Moqueca, Brazilian style, I believe.
Moqueca.
Yeah, got it.
So you got this mix of blue tarp tacos and sit-down dining. But it's not just about eating. The source highlights real guppy outdoors.
I noticed them. They seem to be the bridge between fishing and community education. They do rod building classes on Saturdays. That is a lost art.
It really is.
Yeah.
I usually just go buy a stick with a reel on it.
Exactly. Teaching someone to wrap the guides and glue the handle connects you to the activity in a way buying a rod off a shelf never could. And they have free fishing events at Port Hueneme Pier.
Which is pronounced Wainimi Pier.
Wainimi. Correct. And these events are crucial because they lower the barrier to entry. Fishing can be expensive, intimidating.
Yeah.
Real Guppy removes that friction. And get this, they have a premiere for their Anglers Fishing Show. The source calls it California's coolest fishing show.
Which is premiering at the Maritime Museum. Again, look at that connection. They're hosting it at the museum, tying modern media back to the history of the harbor.
The Channel Islands Maritime Museum seems to be the cultural anchor for everything. Whether it's green lighthouses or a fishing show, all roads lead back there. And the collection sounds amazing. Handcrafted model ships, art that's over 400 years old. It gives the harbor gravitas.
So we've covered the locals. What if I'm just visiting? What if I'm the listener thinking, okay, this sounds cool, but what do I do there?
Well, the visitor experience is all about getting on the water. The source lists the full spectrum. You can fish from the shore or take a charter with Channel Islands Sport Fishing or Hook's Landing.
And since the source is dated late January, we're right in the middle of whale watching season.
Through May 2026, and April brings the Festival of Whales.
A must for any cetacean enthusiast.
Cetacean.
Yes.
I'm learning so many words today. Cetacean. But seriously, a whole festival for whales shows that ecotourism is a huge pillar here. It's not just about catching fish, it's about watching them. And for those who want to be the captain, there are electric boat rentals, kayaks, paddle boards, companies like Channel Islands Marine Safari Adventures. The barrier to entry to get on the water is really low.
That's key.
It's crucial for a welcoming destination. You don't need to own $1 million yacht. You can rent a silent electric boat and feel like you're part of it.
And for accommodations, we see that contrast again. You have the Hampton Inn and then the resort experience at Sakari Dunes.
Sakari Dunes.
Sakari. Sounds fancy.
It does. It's just a higher price point, a different demographic. So the harbor is trying to cater to everyone, the family at the Hampton and the couple at the Dunes.
And before we wrap, there's one little nugget that proves this is a real community. The Channel Islands Neighborhood Council meeting.
At the yacht club.
Right. Why does that stand out to you?
Because it shows people live here and they care. They're meeting on a Thursday night to discuss their neighborhood. It grounds all this talk of redevelopment in the reality of civic engagement. It shows the software of the harbor includes active citizens who are watching that hardware construction very, very closely.
So let's bring it all home. What does this all mean? We're looking at this snapshot of Channel Islands Harbor in early 2026.
We are seeing a harbor in a state of dual existence. On one hand, it is a massive construction zone. It is loud, dusty, and ambitious. On the other hand, it's a thriving nature preserve where volunteers are stalking sea bass and whales are migrating past the breakwater.
It's a construction zone nature preserve. I like that.
It's a place where you can get a fish taco under a blue tarp while watching a cement mixer pour a new foundation for a Hyatt. And that raises the provocative thought I want to leave with you. We see this in coastal cities everywhere.
Yeah.
The drive to modernize, to build the village, to attract tourists, it's economically necessary. But how do you do that without scrubbing away the local soul?
The blue tarp factor.
Exactly. Can a Hyatt house and a family selling ceviche under a tarp comfortably coexist in the long run? Or does the shiny new infrastructure eventually price out the very culture that made the place interesting to begin with? That's the challenge Channel Islands Harbor faces between now and 2028.
Yeah, that is the multi-million-dollar redevelopment question. But for now, based on our source, the harbor is open for business, the whales are swimming, the sea bass are growing, and the tacos are serving.
And next week's source material apparently covers Valentine's plans, so the romance of the harbor is still alive and well.
I'm just thinking about that ceviche. I might need to make a road trip. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the transformation of Channel Islands Harbor.
Goodbye, everyone.